Ladies and gentlemen, this is El Cochino, Tom Lawler, and I'd like to welcome you to the podcast that puts the lotion on its own skin, LuchaWorld. Bitchin'.
Welcome everyone to LuchaWorld Podcast, episode number 92. Fredo Esparza here. This week we have two big shows to talk about. As earlier in the month, we had Reyes from AAA's back in March 4th. That'll be the first show we'll talk about. And then the second show of this month was the most recent, CMLL's Dos Leyendas. Two very different shows. One I liked, one I didn't really like. I thought AAA show was at best okay. We also have other news to talk about, including Alberto El Patron returning to AAA, LA Park, and all these challenges that are going on between AAA's roster, including Dorian, Psycho Clown, Hijo del Fantasma, Mamba. Everybody's challenging people who aren't in AAA. We'll also talk about the Impact versus Lucha Underground show coming up at WrestleCon. That's going to be streaming live on Twitch. And we'll also be talking about a new investment opportunity for all of you listeners who want to get into the wrestling business. I don't know if you guys want to invest in this. It's wrestling, so I personally wouldn't recommend it, but some of you guys might like this, some of you won't. It's up to you. It's your money. I'm not going to tell you how to spend it. We'll also be talking about a couple of other things that have happened over the past couple of weeks, including Caristico. He briefly appeared like he was gone from CMLL, but he's back. He's working with the Crash also. Rey Mysterio Jr.'s injury, a bunch of news these past couple of weeks. But before we get to all that, the first thing we'll talk about is Reyes, and wanted to talk about AAA's Reyes. I thought it was an okay show. Your typical AAA show where actually I thought this was a lot better than Guerra de Titanes, but it was pretty disappointing. As the show went on, there just wasn't anything that really piques your interest in wanting to watch it or rewatch it again. And that's kind of been AAA's problem with their big shows. They usually don't have anything that you really want to rewatch again. Most of their big memorable matches, other than obviously the mass matches and stuff like that, but even that, like, they could be a bit of a letdown. But usually your best matches end up being on some random television taping, and it's usually like one match, and that's basically it for a while. But this show, I thought this show kind of started off pretty well. It was supposed to start at 4 p.m. Pacific. They aired on Twitch. They started the show actually at 4 and talked for about 20-25 minutes. They had their two hosts, Jose Manuel Guillen and Hugo Savinovich. They're still not offering the show in English, so it's all in Spanish. Unless, well, actually, it's all in Spanish except for the appearances of Vampiro. Vampiro's been did Steve Austin's podcast, and the Cubs fan recapped the entire thing. You could find that on his website, luchablog.com. He recapped some of the stuff that Vampiro talked about on that podcast. And apparently, not only does Vampiro have a lot going on in every day of the week, but one of the things he brought up was that he does live cut-ins during the TV shows, which he had actually brought that up at one point. Actually, he brought up something on his Facebook page where he was talking about this new thing that they were going to do on Twitch, where he was going to have his own channel where he was going to talk about what was going on during the matches. Well, what ended up happening was on this show, they basically showed this smaller screen of and Vampiro was sitting in gorilla position, talking about what was going on the show, and I guess they didn't have it synced properly, so the announcers would start talking and Vampiro wouldn't be on, and when Vampiro would appear, the announcers didn't know if he was on, so you would have Vampiro just looking completely confused. I thought that was one of the highlights of this show. If they do more of that, I'll probably watch more AAA TV. If they don't do it, I won't. Just because I found it pretty amusing that he looked absolutely lost most of the time, and then other times it was basically your usual Vampiro making jokes, and Hugo Savinovich reacting. Jose Manuel really didn't get most of the jokes, or really didn't want to take part in all that stuff. And also because they would go to at one point they cut towards Vampiro right as the match was going to start. So they basically just had Vampiro sitting there like staring the entire time. So while the announcers are doing their introduction to the show, talking about what's going to happen, Jose Manuel Guillen and Hugo Savinovich start talking about how they were going to add a surprise match, which ended up being Fabi Apache versus Lady Shani. Although the way they were talking about it kind of seemed like at first that they weren't sure what kind of match it was going to be. But I think Hugo later on mentioned like that it was going to be them just going one-on-one. So the show starts at about 4:30. We didn't get any dancing fruit on this event, so I don't know if Rey de Reyes was that big of an event. If you don't have no dancing fruit at the beginning of a AAA show, I don't know if it's a big event. So the show opens with Fabi Apache beating Lady Shani. I thought this was pretty good. I think their last match might have been slightly better just because Fabi was so stiff in that match, and so like it kind of looked like a little more it looked a little more aggressive from her side of things. And this one kind of like, I think Lady Shani did a little more, but the way it came across, the other match seemed a little more a little stronger. This was and also Estrella Divina interfered, so Hugo Savinovich is just shocked at how huge Estrella Divina is. And I'm not sure if he realizes she's an exotico. So and I think Vampiro kind of got that later on because he kept making jokes about that, wanting to introduce Estrella Divina to Hugo Savinovich. But yeah, I thought this match was a pretty good opening match for Rey de Reyes. I think that's the one thing we could expect out of a AAA big show, where they'll usually their opening match should be good. Then they got into the Rey de Reyes semifinal matches, where every single one of the matches was going to have a luchador sorpresa. Unfortunately, none of them were really surprises, mostly just guys coming back from injuries. And the first one was Pimpinela Escarlata, Dave the Clown, and Angelical and the surprise in that match was Rey Escorpion, which wasn't that big of a surprise since he's pretty much on every show anyways. But he ended up winning by pinning Angelical. I thought this was an okay match. Angelical looked pretty good in the match. Rey Escorpion looked solid. Actually, Angelical did a really cool tornillo to the outside, which I really liked. But it had Dave the Clown in it and Pimpinela, so it was okay at best. Third match on the card was another Rey de Reyes semifinal match. This one had Scoria, Mascara de Bronce, Bengala, and the surprise in this match was Argenis, who we just saw like in, I don't know if it was the last taping or the previous tapings, because I even remember, it had to be the previous one, the 2 shows ago. And Argenis wrestled injured, so basically, whenever he did like a big dive or anything, he when he would land, he would sell that he was hurt. I think at one point he grabbed the wrong leg or something, but he kept. I think he grabbed his ankle at one point because he might have he might have hurt it, but then he grabbed the leg that he was hurt. Bengala ended up winning this one. This one was actually really good. Mascara de Bronce looked good in this match. Argenis looked good. Bengala looked really good also. Scoria did a really cool tornillo. They did a combination where Bengala hit a tope and I think Scoria hit a tornillo through the middle rope. Looked really good. Mascara de Bronce really looked good in this. I thought this was the best match on the card, really. You could have stopped watching the rest of the show after this match because if you were just going to want to watch good wrestling, that probably would have been it. The rest of the stuff was, it was okay, but not that great. Nothing you're going to like regret missing. The fourth match was Hijo del Vikingo, Angel Mortal Jr., Cuervo, And the surprise in this match was the returning Pagano. The Rey de Reyes semifinal match 3. Hijo del Vikingo surprised everyone by winning. Pagano actually hit this dive that he climbed to the top rope, and he was supposed to land on Cuervo, who was in the crowd, like in the first row. And it almost looked like Pagano wasn't going to make it. But fortunately, he made it. Hijo del Vikingo ended up pinning Angel Mortal Jr. Hijo del Vikingo looked really good in this match, but this match wasn't as good as the previous Rey de Reyes semifinal. The fourth Rey de Reyes semifinal was Dinastia, La Parka, Venom, and the returning Macias. And I guess they're reviving the Macias La Parka feud. You would have thought they would have done more with Dinastia Venom, but Dinastia Venom were basically just there to be carried around and beat up by La Parka and Macias, and they didn't really do that much, unfortunately. It was more of La Parka versus Macias. La Parka made Macias submit to an armbar submission, and as soon as I don't even think Macias waved. He was trying to grab the bottom rope and doing the struggle to grab the bottom rope, but the ref ended up just saying he submitted. Macias rolled out of the ring and kind of waved goodbye to everyone, and La Parka went out and punched them or attacked them, and it kind of seemed like Macias just wasn't having any of it. And he really didn't want to do anything with La Parka at that point. But that seems like something to look. That should be interesting to see what happens with Macias, and if it's going to be something where they're just going to start feuding. Although, La Parka's busy feuding with someone else at the moment also. The sixth match was Poder del Norte beating Los OGTs to retain the AAA World Trios titles in a TLC match. Other people liked this match. Other people liked how this match basically had a lot of interesting moments in it, but to me, I just kind of felt this match was really flat. The crowd didn't seem into it. I don't know what I mean. The early portion of it, I didn't really see anything that it just seemed really boring. And then you get at the very end, you get a couple of cool spots where they're going through tables and stuff like that, but they didn't use the ladders. They didn't hang the titles hang the titles so people could climb up ladders to grab them. I mean, that's the whole point of a TLC match, I would think. And I didn't really get this match, and if people liked it, that's fine. I didn't. I don't think it wasn't anything that I would really want to rewatch again. It just had a slow pace at the very beginning. I didn't really like it. There was blood, but it just wasn't my thing. The Rey de Reyes final was Rey Escorpion, La Parka, Hijo del Vikingo, and Bengala. If La Parka wasn't in this match, I think this match would have been so much better. Unfortunately, he was in this match, and Hijo del Vikingo sold an injury when he hit a shooting star press to the floor onto Bengala. Rey Escorpion is basically La Parka has Rey Escorpion beat when Dave the Clown shows up and pulls the ref out of the ring. Then he climbs into the ring and hits a back cracker on La Parka. And then Rey Escorpion hits the front cracker on La Parka for the win. And that's your winner, Rey Escorpion. It's cool that he won, but, it was a very underwhelming Rey de Reyes. Nothing to really get too excited about. The eighth match on the card was a Atomicos match. Hijo de Dr. Wagner Jr. teaming up with Hernandez, Monster Clown, and Murder Clown. They beat Ray Wagner, Maximo La Mascara, and Psycho Clown. This match was really not that interesting. Hijo de Dr. Wagner Jr. pinned Ray Wagner, his father. That really was the big highlight of that match, but this wasn't interesting either. I mean, I don't know. At this point, this match just was there. I really think this match, they could have just gotten rid of this match, or just gotten rid of this match and given the main event a little more time, because for whatever reason, the main event seemed very short. Hijo del Fantasma beat Tejano Jr. in the mask versus hair match. They basically had earlier in the card, in the opening match, Hijo de Tirantes was the referee, and Vampiro came out with the commission, and they kicked out Hijo de Tirantes. Told him he wasn't permitted to officiate on the show. So in this match, Tejano Jr. had grabbed the mic, announced that his second was going to be Hijo de Tirantes, and then Hijo del Fantasma announced that his second was going to be actually the music played, and Vampiro and Hijo del Fantasma's father Fantasma came out, and Vampiro ended up leaving. Before leaving, he made the match a no DQ match. It's a mask versus hair match, and it's AAA. It's always going to be a no DQ match anyways. And he told Fantasma that if Hijo de Tirantes got involved, that he could beat him up. And, the match was okay. There was a moment where Fantasma grabbed Tejano Jr. on the outside, and Hijo del Fantasma hit a tope, but Tejano Jr. moved, and Hijo del Fantasma ended up hitting his father. His father ends up hitting his head on the side of the table, so everybody's worried about this, and they bring out a stretcher, and while they're getting Fantasma on the stretcher, Tejano Jr. Is telling him, "That's what happens for getting involved, Fantasma. It's all your fault." And a lot of people were worried about because of the stretcher thing and all that, but if you watch the entire show, as I mentioned, Argenis, Hijo del Vikingo, and I think even Angelica, all were stretchered out earlier in the card. So basically, they were stretching out so many people that to me, it kind of lost a lot of the significance. There were a couple of people who were talking about how, he hit the table and stuff, but it's like, when you're doing that all the time, it kind of just, it's kind of like the boy who cried wolf type of deal, where you just can't believe it nearly enough. The match continues. Hijo de Tirantes gets involved. He gets bloodied up. I think everybody ends up bleeding. Hijo del Fantasma gets his mask ripped. Tejano Jr. is probably the only guy who doesn't bleed in this match. Hijo del Fantasma ends up beating Tejano Jr. Fantasma later comes back. Miraculous recovery, and he's there to witness his son shaving Tejano Jr.'s hair. Only problem is we don't get to see the entire thing because Twitch goes off air. So we end up just seeing, I think a couple of people said that they kind of saw when they started cutting some of Tejano Jr.'s hair, but they didn't show the entire thing. So that was kind of a bit of a letdown. Overall, I thought the show was okay, but it wasn't that it wasn't anything that I would consider too memorable. I'm pretty sure it didn't really feel like anything too special or anything like that. I mean, you could kind of tell some of these guys they know where they're putting all their effort, and you gotta remember they just had tapings, Lucha Underground tapings Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and I would think Hijo del Fantasma and Tejano Jr. were on wrestled on those. They probably did a lot better on those shows than anything that they did on this. The match just felt really short, disappointing overall. An okay show, disappointing main event. It's AAA. That's AAA for you guys. In other AAA news, actually they had a press conference to make some more announcements for Triple Mania, and I think they also gave out some lineups, not lineups, some shows that they were going to be running, as part of their tour to heading into Triple Mania or whatever they call it. But the big news at the press conference was Alberto El Patron would be wrestling at Triple Mania. He later did a couple of interviews, including one with the Mas Lucha crew, where he brought up that he not only would be working Triple Mania, but he would also be wrestling an additional 5 to 6 matches with AAA. That includes Triple Mania. So the big one is going to be Triple Mania. I don't know if those other 5-6 matches are before or after or within the year. He did mention that they were dates. He gave them dates during the year, so I guess it is during the year. He'll probably work a couple. I'm guessing he's gonna have to work a couple of shows just to lead up to whatever to build up whoever they're gonna bring in as a international star. That's who his opponent is gonna be at Triple Mania. It's gonna be an international star. They didn't say who it was. They kind of hinted to who it might be. The obvious person that they were hinting to early on before this even came about was they wanted Chris Jericho, but I don't think they're going to get him. Then Alberto started hinting towards somebody like Rey Mysterio. It could be anyone. Nobody really knows. He said it's a friend, so you pretty much can throw in Rey Mysterio, Jack Swagger. There's a couple of other guys that you could throw in there. I don't know. It's Alberto. I'm not as excited. He's probably he's a bigger deal for their fan base than he is for me. I'm not a huge fan of his, so that's not something I'm really looking forward to. Even less than that I'm looking forward to at Triple Mania is the return of Copa Triple Mania, which was horrible last year. So of course they're bringing it back. Dorian Roldan said that they were gonna change the format because they felt there were too many people involved in the match. I'm guessing that's probably not even going to make a big difference. It's probably going to be just as bad. They basically brought in Psycho Clown and Hijo del Fantasma because Hijo del Fantasma, by winning the mask versus hair match against Tejano Jr. was going to be in the Poker de Aces cage match. Hijo del Fantasma immediately said he thought they shouldn't make it a cage match. That they should instead have it be a regular match, just a 4-way match, so they could get to do more. I think Hijo del Fantasma is starting to realize cage matches aren't very they don't really work for high flying luchadors or guys who actually do more than just brawl inside a cage. They start talking about who the other two guys should be in that match, and rather than like point towards guys within the promotion, they start talking about they start grandstanding, like bringing up CMLL guys like Atlantis. They brought up Rush, who doesn't have a mask. Hijo del Fantasma mentioned Rush, but he's been mentioning him on his social media quite a bit. He didn't know that Dorian had said that they were all going to be masked wrestlers. So when he said that, it was pretty much just him going off of what he had been bringing up on social media. It's not going to happen. It's not going to be him. They also brought up Mr. Niebla, LA Park. They did bring up Blue Demon Jr., who is with AAA, and a couple of other people, but it was mostly guys who weren't in AAA. Dorian said something about how LA Park should work AAA so he could be in a promotion where he could draw. If you watched Reyes, it really wasn't. I guess this kind of irked LA Park, although it's probably also worked. I'm sure if the money's right, he would actually go there. But LA Park made it this really funny video where he's working out, boxing, hitting the punching bags, and he talks about how he has a lot of respect for Ray Wagner. He loves he thinks he dresses well, he drives nice cars. But he said he has nothing against him. He doesn't have anything that he wants since he dropped his mask. And the guy he wants to wrestle is Dorian Roldan. So LA Park turned this whole thing around and decided to challenge Dorian Roldan to a match. And he told him, if you think I can't draw in your hen house his gallinero, then maybe we'll draw. I'll draw again. I can guarantee I'll draw a house against you. And if I do, I'll then face your new generation of stars. Although AAA's current generation of stars are just guys that were recently have been around for a while. So it's not a new breed of. It's not a bunch of new guys that LA Park has never really faced. So that was really all the news at the press conference. They had a TV taping recently, which was really horrible from what everybody else had that watched it. I checked, I was watching, I can't remember what I was watching, but I was checking my Twitter feed, and I noticed Cubs fan was talking about how horrible it was. Then Dylan on Lucha Talk told me it was really bad. I mean, come on. It has Dave the Clown main eventing. You should know better. And the rest of the card looked horrible, except for the opening match. Anytime it has Hijo Vikingo, it's probably going to be pretty good. But the rest of the stuff, I mean, it looked really bad. Other news involving... not involving AAA, but sort of involving AAA. Impact will be Impact announced that they were going to run a show at WrestleCon, and it was going to be Impact versus Lucha Underground. It will be streaming live on Twitch, April 6th. They've already announced a couple of matches. It is already better than anything. I think it's probably better than anything we've been watching. If you're only watching Lucha, it's probably and really anything else. It's probably the best lineup so far, and they haven't really said much, but they've announced 3 matches. Desmond Xavier, DJZ, Andrew Everett versus Drago, Aerostar, and King Cuerno. That should be really good. Jeremiah Crane versus Eddie Edwards in an I Quit match. LAX versus the Mac and Killshot. And they also mentioned that Phoenix and Pentagon Dark would be on the show. So I think Penta's wrestling like 2 or 3 shows that same day. So he's going to be very busy, very tired. But that looks like it's going to be a good show. Should be fun. That's probably the show that of anything involving AAA talent. That's probably the show I'm going to want to watch more than anything else. Anything they're going to do, really. Other news. Since we last did the podcast, I'm sorry to say CMLL and Lucha Elite have broken up. This shouldn't surprise anyone. CMLL immediately announced that there was they were no longer affiliated with Lucha Elite because they weren't working directly with they were never contacted by Azteca TV concerning this show. So since then, we've pretty much have not heard anything from Lucha Elite. And the funny thing is that right after that announcement, Caristico was supposed to team up with Volador Jr. in the World Tag Team Tournament, and that Friday suddenly Caristico was out with an injury, and he was replaced by Valiente. Volador Jr. was happy. He said he'd rather team up with a guy that he could trust, and he considered a friend than Caristico. But Caristico, he said nothing. CMLL said he was injured. I think the following day, Caristico said he was injured, but he was like working out or something. And then I think maybe like a couple days later, the Crash had announced that Caristico would be on their show. So for about a weekend, everybody thought Caristico was gone from CMLL. Turned out that he actually was injured, or he claimed he was injured. I'm guessing it was more that he didn't want to team up with Volador Jr. just because it's, those guys kind of like, Volador Jr. really got kind of like, even, I don't know if it's how serious he is with his comments about Caristico, but I'm guessing it's probably just it was a little too much for Caristico. I don't think also, I don't know. It would have just been a tag team that they were going to eventually want to break up. So it would have just continued the tradition of CMLL tag teams like Nero Casas and Shocker, or Rey Bucanero and Terrible, who you pretty much figured we're gonna have to break up at some point. So Caristico is back with CMLL. He just worked the Puebla show, so he's back. He's back in the fold. He ended up wrestling the Crash and replaced Rey Mysterio, who tore his bicep recently. He announced he wouldn't be on that Crash show like the day before it happened. A couple of days before it happened this past Saturday, but he hasn't really made any comment about whether or not he's going to be at the upcoming New Japan show, which I'm sure by the time I post this, he'll probably make the announcement. He's not going to be. I don't think he's going to be able to wrestle on that because he said he's going to be out for a month. So then CMLL basically, since we last did the podcast, all you've really missed is a lot of tournaments that they've had, and they weren't very good. Honestly, they weren't. There were stuff that you could have skipped. I think there was maybe one match that you might want to like check out. I think it was a Dragon Lee Mystico versus Sansón Forastero match, and even funnier in this, they Triton and Esfinge won the Arena Coliseo tag team titles from Disturbio in the final against Disturbio and Virus. But prior to that, Sansón appeared on CMLL Informa, and he basically mentioned how it was a mistake that they vacated the Arena Coliseo tag team titles because they vacated them at a time where they didn't realize that the final was going to happen at Dos Leyendas. I have no idea how that happened. I mean, CMLL was the one that planned it out. I think they even announced that the final was going to be that day, so it was basically all a brain fart on CML's programming department's fault. Sansón pretty much had to be the one that had to look bad in all this. So CML's Dos Leyendas happened this past Friday, March 16th. They honored Mil Mascaras along with Salvador Luteroth. Before the show started, they had Mil Mascaras. They had press conference for Mil Mascaras that he gave a lot of... he talked about how all these other interests he has, but he's not going to stop wrestling to pursue these other interests. He has 2 or 3 books he wants to publish. He has some oil paintings that he said that were going to be displayed in a gallery. He said a bunch of other stuff but basically at the end he said with all these other interests, he still plans on continuing to wrestle. He's going to do that later on in his life. I think he's like 78, 80 years old. So, hey, maybe he'll be around for another 20, 30 years. And that's his plan. Good for him. Dos Leyendas, they also honored him during the, I guess, mid part of the show. They honored him. And I'll bring this up now because I don't want to stop while we're talking about the matches. He brought up women and how if it wasn't for women in his life, one woman being his mother, he wouldn't have been born, and the other woman that was standing right beside him, Sofia Alonso, the CML. Currently, the CML's she's kind of the figurehead that we see now, more public. Her and Gala Luteroth are the two Luteroth family members that we see more now of. We don't see Paco at all, and it's really them two that are really the two people that we're seeing more of. Mil thanked her and said that if it wasn't for her, he wouldn't be being honored at this show. They kept it short, fortunately for those of us who didn't really want to hear long speeches during this show. The show aired on iPay-per-view, and if you ordered the iPay-per-view, you know that there were issues. There was some trouble just getting the website to load. I think a few people couldn't get it to load, so they didn't watch it. They probably asked for refunds. Those of us who got it to work, the video worked fine, actually, which was weird. The website loaded forever, but once you got to the video started rather quickly. The only problem that came for me was that during the 4th match, I think as the match was starting, it just stopped working. Yeah, it actually was. It did happen because it was Atlantis was locking up. He was in there with I think it was Ultimo Guerrero. He was in there with him, and it just froze, and then it just came back at the end of. I refreshed it. It logged me out. I had to log in. It took forever to get back in. I think a few people couldn't get back in. I was able to. Then it got to the very end of it. Internet TV was getting a lot of people who were kind of upset about this. So they basically said that they were going to give out refunds. They answered my question when I asked them if it was going to be available as a VOD, and they said it would be. I didn't watch. It was only one fall, so, and it was a Guerreros Laguneros match, so you already know what's going to happen in the first fall of their matches. Let's get to the rest of the show. The opener was Audaz, Flyer, and Star Jr. beating Disturbio, Templario, and Virus. The crowd was really behind Virus. Loud chants for Virus. I think it's really cool that he's now getting that reaction from fans. It's not just it's probably mostly the dominant crowd of Rudo fans, and that they have that were chanting. But you get a lot more people cheering for him, and I think that's cool. Match was really good. I think this was probably one of the best openers CML has had in the last year or two. I kind of like the other one that they had when Audaz went from being Fiero to Audaz. I thought I really liked that one. Audaz is a star. I mean, this guy has tons of potential. He's a lot smoother than a lot of the other young technicos that CML has. They really should be doing an En Busca de un Ídolo this year, or at least I'm gonna assume that if they do the Gran Alternativa, Audaz and Templario will probably be in the final. Don't know who they'll be teaming with. Probably Audaz teaming up with Volador Jr. and Templario teaming up with Ultimo Guerrero, the way this promotion works. Flyer and Star Jr. look good also. Disturbio and Virus, everyone looked good. Templario is another guy who's really talented. He looked really good in this match also. I just thought this was a really fun opener. Definitely the match. I thought there's really the mask match and this match are the two matches you really should go out of your way to watch if you haven't watched it. If it's available, I'm sure the mask match will be made available on, I think it'll air on television here in the US. If it's still airing, I don't even know because I stopped watching the Azteca show. I'm pretty sure it is. The second match wasn't very good. The crowd pretty much died during this match. Dallas, Zuxis, La Seductora beat Marcela, Kaho Kobayashi, Princesa Zuhei. I thought the only time it was pretty good was when Kaho was in there with Zuxis, but match was very slow. It was probably a better than usual women's trios match. I think that's the trouble. We get so many of these women's trios matches and they do the same thing. I think they probably should have gone with a Dallas Zuxis versus Kaho Kobayashi Princesa Suhei tag match. Made it a little something different, or maybe just switched it up. I still think they got to do one fall matches for women's matches, because I just think it gets a little too repetitive. Their matches get too repetitive, and it's a smaller division of women. So, and Seductora was in the match also. Third match was the Munoz family, Dragon Lee, Místico, and Rush, beating the Dinamita family, the Dinamita Dinastia, Sansón, Forastero, and Mascareño 2000. Thought this match was okay. It was better than the previous match because the crowd was really loud for this, because they were really up. They were really booing Místico and Rush and Dragon Lee a bit. Mascareño 2000 didn't really get involved in the match that much. He pretty much stayed in his corner whenever Dragon Lee and Místico were in the match. I thought it was an okay match, not that great. Rush, the one thing they did do is they got a lot of the crowd really got into this match. Probably a match that you probably would have liked more if you were live at the arena than while watching it, because watching it was kind of just, it was just there. Fourth match, Atlantis, Matt Taven, Niebla Roja beat Euphoria, Gran Girl, and Ultimo Girl. Your typical Girls Laguneros trios match. I thought it was an okay match. It gave you the big finish with Atlantis, getting the win with the Atlantida. Matt Taven and Niebla Roja hit dives to close it out also. It was an okay match. Fifth match, Valiente and Volador Jr. beat Rey Bucanero and El Terrible in the final to win the CMLL World Tag Team titles. I thought this match was good. The first two falls, skip, your same old as far as these matches go. But the third fall was really good. Guys were really they really picked it up. The crowd was into it. They kicked out big moves. Valiente hit his Valiente special on Rey Bucanero, and Rey Bucanero caught him. El Terrible got hit by a tope from Volador Jr., and he actually went went over the guardrail. They did a lot of cool stuff to close out the match, like with everybody trying to hit their big move to get the win. But in the end, Valiente and Volador Jr. won. Now, it's funny because we had Terrible. It would have been a total CML thing where they would have had them win the tag titles. They could have had Rey Bucanero and Terrible win the tag titles, and this whole thing of them breaking up because Terrible is with the Ingobernables. But even with Shocker and Nero Casas was with Besta Negra, and Shocker was with the other with the TGR group. So they've done it before. I think it's better that they had Valiente and Volador Jr. I get the feeling that the way they had this planned, the way they kind of had this planned out, was it was going to be Volador Jr. and Caristico winning the titles, and at some point Sansón and Cuatrero were going to be their top challengers, or they were going to be in the final, or somewhere in CML's programming department, whoever wasn't paying attention when the final was going to happen probably thought that would have been a cool final, only to realize Cuatrero was in the main event. They couldn't do that match. So I'm guessing that's probably going to be the tag team that they're going to face, along with the the Girls Laguneros, the random trios. It would have been cool if they would have done Rush and Terrible versus these guys, because I think it would have had more. It would have been a far better match, and they could have just thrown Pure Oath into that third match. Really, I would have been okay with that. The main event, Cuatrero beat Angel De Oro in the mask versus mask match. Angel De Oro, after he removed his mask, revealed himself to be Miguel Angel Chavez Velasco from Torreon, 29 years old, 12 years of pro, still very young, definitely has a future ahead of him. He's probably gonna, unmasking probably, I don't know if it helps him as far as getting more work at the independent level, but it might actually be something that, if WWE ever comes calling again, they'll probably see Angel De Oro and Niebla Roja as good-looking guys that they could bring in. Anyway, the match itself was I thought it was great. Started it off with Angel De Oro missing a tope and hitting the guardrail as Cuatrero got out of the way. And from that point forward, the first fall was basically just Cuatrero dominating that fall. Second fall, Angel De Oro got the win with the Mecedora into La Campana. I really dug that finisher. I think the one thing that you notice with Angel De Oro compared to Niebla Roja is that Angel De Oro doesn't have the the amount of moves that Niebla Roja can go to. And also Niebla Roja, if you think about it, he totally changed his style of how he works when he went from Rudo to Technico. And also from him unmasking. I don't know if Angel De Oro is going to do that because he stuck to the same his same plan that you usually get. Everything you get from Angel De Oro in every other match he did in this match. I think Cuatrero did a great, and it's fine. It actually worked in the match. The only difference is Cuatrero is really good. Third fall, really good. A lot of big spots. The best one was really as the match was closing out. Angel De Oro had Cuatrero in the campana, and he loosened it up. There was actually a botch spot before that also. So I think before or after that there was that botch spot where in the corner where they kind of messed it up and they had to just improvise from there. But in that campana spot, it kind of led to a lot of controversy because a lot of people were wondering if Angel De Oro screwed up or what happened. But I think it kind of worked in storyline because afterwards they talked about that move and they each had a different point of view as far as what happened in that move. Angel De Oro said that he was overconfident and he might have loosened the move because he thought maybe he had Cuatrero had given up, whereas Cuatrero was saying that he thought Angel De Oro was weakening and he loosened the move because he just couldn't. He just lost. He was pretty much weak at that point. Cuatrero wins the match with a powerbomb. Really good. And you had a lot of fans in the crowd. The women crying because Angel De Oro lost, and you had Cuatrero mocking them. Sansón was in the corner. He was very well dressed in the match. Also, I must add, he probably was best dressed second in Lucha Libre history because he dressed very. Usually, guys come in with their either their gear, their wrestling gear because they wrestled earlier, or they go in with a jumpsuit or something or a tracksuit. So I thought that was cool that he actually wore a sports coat. Angel De Oro unmasked. He had he asked for his father and his mother to join them in the ring as he unmasked. Really cool. I thought it was a very emotional moment. I think that's the one thing CML has the edge over any other promotion. In a big mass match, they're still able to get that same feeling that you especially if it's a good mass match. I usually like the Puro Diamante Azul ones are shitty, but and the cage matches ones are really dumb. But these, like the anniversary and Dos Leyendas, they usually mean something, and I like this one. I thought it was a good show. If you really wanna, it was only $10, and I thought it was worth it. The mass match, the opener, and the third fall of the tag match, and we also got the dance segments. So as everybody knows that listens to the show, I'm a huge fan of the dance segments from the Diosas del Ring. So yeah, overall, I thought Dos Leyendas was far better than anything that we got from Rey de Reyes or Guerra de Titanes from AAA. So yeah, that was CML Dos Leyendas. Some news coming out of actually some other news as far as what's going on in the world of Lucha Libre. Blue Demon Jr. will be receiving the Lucha Libre award at Cauliflower Alley Club in Las Vegas this year. I may actually not go just to protest this. Honestly. I should just tell Kurt that. I'm not going because I'm protesting Blue Demon Jr. being honored at the Cauliflower Alley Club. The one thing they're probably going to do is they're probably going to show a lot of the Blue Demon Sr. They're probably going to make a montage of his stuff. Hopefully they actually do realize that Blue Demon Jr. isn't Blue Demon Sr. The other news, and this is the investment opportunity I was talking about, AroLucha has started a crowdfunding deal via WeFounder. It's at WeFounder.com/AroLucha or something like that. They basically are allowing fans to purchase shares into the promotion, but the problem is the investment starts at the low is at 100. I don't know. I mean, I think we went through this with the Jeff Katz situation a couple years ago. I know Mass Republic tried something similar also. I can't remember what their thing was, because I know Jeff Katz's one was like he was gonna like do similar to what Lucha Underground, where they did a season tapings, and that was what he was gonna post. People that invested or like donate it would get like something out of it. But this is their goal is to get over 1 million in this crowdfunding thing. They have a valuation of 9.48 million. That valuation is very high. I don't know if it's pro wrestling. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Some of these other promotions are struggling. Every time I talk to a promoter, they're talking about you just have to listen to like all these guys talk about how they're always losing money. They're maxing out their credit cards. And this is just like the independents. I mean, if you're not WWE, you're like, you're struggling. If you're not WWE, New Japan, CMLL, if you're not one of those promotions, you're either like really like, you either have to be realistic and realize you should stick to being smaller, or you're struggling, or you're the company that's actually like investing money is losing money, really. Because I mean, Lucha Underground, they don't sell it. I don't think they make anywhere. I don't think they make anywhere near what they're spending on like their tapings. And I think AroLucha's, the other news from this was that if you go on the page, they have this timeline of the last from when they started to what they to putting together the crowdfunding deal that they have. And right in November 2017, they have Rey Mysterio joining AroLucha as a co-owner and or part owner or something like that. And there's a lot of people who are wondering how much he's invested in it, because you hear his name being brought up as possibly returning to WWE. Although I don't think that would hurt. I'm sure he could own. This, it's a business. If you're viewing it as a business, he could own it. He doesn't have to like necessarily be wrestling there. But the whole point of I think a lot of people, the whole point that they would actually want to invest is that they would have Rey Mysterio. The trouble there is Lucha Underground had Rey Mysterio for a while, and I don't think it added anything to their promotion. I mean, they're really still there's less buzz with them now than there was when they first started. I mean, and I don't want to. It's not to like disrespect the talent or anything. It's like it's not talking about them. It's talking about the promotion itself. They don't really do anything. It's like you get the like they're doing the TV tapings. Where you're hearing all the information is from like the people that work for it, but you're not getting it from like the main promotion, because they don't want besides, we can't even put results or like spoilers or stuff like that, because the Lucha Libre FMV will just send you a legal threat, and who wants to deal with that, really? And who really cares? I mean, I mean honestly, I went to a couple of shows. When I went to their shows, Lucha Underground shows, I watched them. I didn't remember anything that happened like by a couple of days later. So it's like, I don't understand. Like it's silly. Like sometimes I'll read the spoilers. I've read all the spoilers that Dave Meltzer has posted in the Observer's newsletter, and I can't tell you what happened. And besides, it's out of order, and you're not even getting the skits and all that other crap that they added to the TV show. So, I mean, you're only getting you're probably getting half of what you're gonna get on television, anyways. And even then, you have to cut that into like another, like a quarter of it, because when they're filming it, they're going out of order as far as matches go. So you don't even know what the order is of the show. So you're going to be pretty confused about it, anyways. I don't understand it. Anyway, back to AroLucha. I don't know. I mean, I don't really like their whole thing was like they were talking about how there's a lot of Hispanics who watch WWE, and I think a lot of us who watch Lucha Libre, we know people who like wrestling, but they like WWE. They're not going out of the way. Like, not everyone watches everything. Like I like wrestling, but I'm not going to watch, WWE, or I'm not going to watch Impact. And then you have other people who like WWE, but they're not going out of their way to like go watch, New Japan Pro Wrestling or Lucha Libre or CMLL or, like any of the other Lucha Libre, really, or Ring of Honor or stuff like that. So it's like, I don't really see how that's, I don't see the connection there. They're not really being realistic. And I also don't think they're a Lucha Libre promotion. They're kind of just using the name. The lineups they've thrown out there have had Shane Helms. They seem less Lucha than Lucha Underground does. And Lucha Underground, I mean, if you read some of the spoilers that they've had, they have a lot less guys that, because of the visa issue, you got to deal with all that stuff. They have a lot more of American indie talent than they do Lucha. So, guys from Mexico. Because when I think Lucha, I think guys from Mexico, or guys, who work Lucha Libre, Latinos, or, guys who like, or, like, it doesn't have to just be Latinos, Americans that work Lucha Libre style. And, I don't think of Tommy Dreamer as a luchador, or like, whoever else they're bringing in. They're not really Lucha. So yeah, I don't know what's going on with AroLucha as far as that crowd. They're at, last time I checked, they were at 8. They had 8 investors, and they were up to about $1,344. So maybe by the time you listen to this, it will be more than that. I'm hoping they get to at least 20 people, just because it would be kind of embarrassing for them, because I mean, they have so many people, and that's the other thing, they have social media and all this stuff, and I don't really see it being brought up. All I see brought up about AroLucha is the Harris twins, the whole Nazi thing, and that's also not something you want. They don't mention Vince Russo. Like, that's the funny thing. Like, they have Nazi alleged Nazi, I don't know what you would call it. They're fine with that, but Vince Russo is like the one and rightfully so, because Vince Russo is an asshole. So I don't mind that. I don't mind them not bringing up Vince Russo. Yeah, so that's pretty much what's going on in Lucha Libre. We are currently, as of right now, safe from tag team tournaments in CMLL for at least a week. So enjoy that, everyone. We are tag team tournament free for at least 1 week. Unfortunately, they'll probably be putting those boring minis matches, and hopefully they do something different with the women. Unfortunately, I doubt they will. That's basically it for this week. We have a lot of AAA TV tapings this week, so if any of you guys want to watch that on Twitch, feel free to do so. I probably will not be watching any of those. I'll probably just watch like a match or two if they're good, because you could tell what's going to be good. If it has Hijo del Vikingo or the group that's in there, it's going to be good. The rest of the stuff isn't really. I don't really care. I mean, I don't care. I don't need to know the history of the build up to what's going to happen in Triple Mania, because you know why? They don't really give a crap about it, because they're going to change it by that point, so it doesn't matter. So I'm probably going to watch. I'll probably end up watching something. I'll probably be watching Boone the Bounty Hunter on Netflix. That's what I'll be watching this week, for those of you wondering. So yeah, that's all for this week. Thanks again, everyone, for listening. And remember, you can stay up to date on the latest Lucha Libre news by visiting LuchaWorld.com. You can support the site by signing up to the Patreon page at patreon.com, LuchaWorld, which features the Lucha Classica podcast. And we just added a new magazine right up now, available, covering late December 1986 through January 1987. It talks about the return of women's wrestling to Mexico City. That's kind of like one of the big stories. It also has this really good interview with Lobo Rubio. He just came back from a back injury, and he talks about how he was part of Los Temerarios with Black Terry and Jose Luis Feliciano, and because he was out, he let them move on. They added a new member called at that time, which was Shuel Guerrero, and when he came back, he could have rejoined them, but he decided, he let Shuel Guerrero continue on with them, and he decided just to go on his own. So it's a good write-up. I think people would enjoy it. It has some results from, UWA, LLI, otherwise known as El Toreo, EMLL's, I think it's an Arena Coliseo show, the Arena Pabellon Azteca show, and an Arena Naucalpan show, which is the Moreno family running that back then. So yeah, check that out. Thanks everyone again, and we'll talk to everyone again soon.